Israel's Minister of Aliyah and Immigration says that in the next 18 months, as many as 90,000 new immigrants will come here to Israel. Tom Hess, the founder of the Jerusalem House of Prayer for All Nations, just issued the 10th edition of his book called Let My People Go. Hess believes because of a number of factors, many of those new immigrants will come from North America. Here's our interview from the Mount of Olives. All right, Tom, thanks for joining us here on Jerusalem Dateline. Appreciate it very much.
It's a joy to be with you in Jerusalem Dateline.
Yeah. You have a passion for Aliyah. When did you first have that on your heart, and what did you do about it?
Actually, what happened in 1987, I was living in Washington, D.C. We had a house of prayer overlooking the Supreme Court in the Capitol, and I was praying, and the Lord took me into a trance, and He showed me 9/11. He showed me greater shakings coming on the United States, and He said that the Jewish people needed to be warned because their destiny was ultimately in Israel. And He said greater shakings would come. So I actually wrote a book called Let My People Go from that experience that I had. We're doing the 10th edition right now. The 15th chapter has to do with what happened in just this year, 2020, with all the things that happened with the pandemic and anti-Semitism and things that are happening in New York and all over the U.S.
So what are the main factors right now where you see increasing the potential of Aliyah?
One thing for sure is the pandemic. What happened, there were something like 300 Jews died in Israel, and they estimate maybe 10,000 in the U.S. and in Europe. So the population is almost the same here as it is outside. So 30 times more Jews died in the pandemic. Also, people realize that there's a much better health system in Israel. The Jewish people, they feel they're being cared for much better here. So there's so many different things. Anti-Semitism is rising so much outside. Also, even the birth rate here is 3.5, and families are healthier here. So there's many different dynamics that are happening that people realize that this is their home. For the first time, probably since Israel was reborn, many Jews in the United States think that it's better to live in Israel than it is in the U.S. They used to think they can live there and they can bless Israel from afar. But now they believe that it's time to come back to Israel because I think they see the ominous things that are happening. But I remember in 1986, we went to Russia and we did 7 Jericho marches for 7 years around the Kremlin, and 1.3 million Jews came back. What happened was that the former Soviet Union unraveled, and God allowed that to happen to bring 1.3 million Jews home. Then Russia went back up again. So I don't know. Right now, it seems like something ominous is happening, and I believe that this is maybe a last warning for the Jews to come back in good times to be able to bring their finances back, find a home here, and to settle before things could shake even more in the United States of America.
You talked about scriptures. In your book, you have 700 scriptures about how the Jews will return here to the land. One of them is in Hosea. What does Hosea say, and why is that so important?
In Hosea, it says, when the lion roars, his people will come trembling from the west. So we know that the lion is roaring now over the United States of America. And it says, when the lion roars, his people will come trembling from the west. So we see that beginning to happen. They're estimating that next year, the number of people making Aliyah could more than double. People are talking about maybe 100,000 Jews coming back. I felt even before this pandemic that in the decade of the 2020s, that there could be more than 1 million Jews come back. And so we saw that same thing from the former Soviet Union in the 80s. But that was the time of the North. Now is the time of the West. And this is the last major Aliyah because 80% of the Jews outside of Israel live actually in the United States of America, and about 95% live in the Western world. And these are the areas that are being shaken the most by the pandemic. Maybe God is showing something that it's time for His people to come home. Because normally He works through the fishers, and if people do not respond to the fishers, He allows the hunters to rise. We hate anti-Semitism, but we know that many of the Jews from around the world came back because of uncomfortable circumstances. Anti-Semitism in the nations was the key that brought them back.
How would you encourage people to be praying about this right now?
I think that Christians should pray that God will open the gates of their cities, open the gates of their nations, and that the Jewish people will be able to come back to Israel, that they would break open the gates through intercession. And we need to pray also that God will bring a big breakthrough to bring them back before it gets much worse in the United States of America. So I believe the 20s will be the roaring 20s because the lion of the tribe of Judah is roaring from the west, and they will come trembling from the west. May they come back sooner than later, because this is the year of aliyah. This, I believe, is the appointed time for the Jews to come back from the west, back to their homeland, Israel.
Well, Tom, thanks for your expertise and your passion about this very important topic. Thank you.
Alpha, Omega.